Can you imagine? I mean, this is what goes on every day. Okay, for decades, financial advisors, when they make an appointment with a wholesaler, know they're going to be trying to be sold something.
Right.
So if you change the dynamic and elevate yourself initially, talking with, listen or learn, open-end questions, you already starting to set yourself apart.
Yeah. Today we get into the nuance of what causes a financial advisor to say yes. Because you may have the right product, say all the right things, and still fail to close. I'm sitting down again with Darren Cde Baca to unpack what he calls the 6 gems to closing the sale. From how you show up in the conversation, to how you earn the advisor's confidence, to final questions that move them to say yes. Welcome to the Financial Wholesaler Podcast, conversations about meetings that matter.
This program that is set up, the 6 gems to closing the sale, are just, as I mentioned, gems that if you integrate, as you integrate these 6, okay, or any one of the 6, you're going to start elevating yourself. If you integrate all 6, your elevation level and your closing rate will increase rapidly. And those of you who already are doing this, from clients of ours who have worked with me, I mean, they'll come in and testify that, to have testimonials, this works because they're doing things the average don't do. They're doing things that the memorability sets in. They set themselves on a higher professional ladder. So we should dive in because it's exciting.
Let's do it. Well, let's start with the first thing the first gem.
The first gem is talk with your advisor. Okay? Yeah. Learn how to talk with your advisor. And talking with your advisor or at your advisor, it's not at, it's with. Be on the same page with them. So adjust is a must. And what do you adjust to? We've talked about maybe a couple times ago the power of understanding how human beings work in a conversation, okay, whether it's on the phone or face-to-face. We as human beings have 3 things that are very valuable for us to form an opinion. Number 1, the visual content. Number 2, a vocal content. And number 3, how we feel about things. Okay, all 3 are intertwined to make a good, powerful decision of whether or not that's good for us. Well, the key is about talking with an advisor is find out which one they tilt to the most. Because as humans, we tilt to one of the 3 more frequently in our comfort zone to make a decision.
Okay.
So either the person is visual, they say, you know what, Mitch, I see what you're saying. I can't wait to show this to my team and my clients. That's a visual person. They want to have information that you can share with them visually. That's just a hint. Talking with them. Now, also a person who's vocal may tend to be more vocal. They may say, I hear what you're saying. I want to share this with and talk about this with my clients and my team. They're vocal. So they want to not have a lot of stuff in front of them. They want to hear what you have to say. Or they may say, you know what, this is very comfortable to me. They're talking about their feelings, okay? They're more feeling understanding about things, how it feels to them. This is very comfortable to us, and I can't wait to share with people how this works in their long-term vision of being comfortable in their financial planning, that kind of idea. Once you understand how where they lean, okay, visual, vocal, or feel, how they feel about things, we call that kinesthetic. Okay, then you start talking the same way. You start acting the same way. That's called talking with an advisor.
Sure.
If you talk if you're talking vocal and they're visual, you're going to have a hard time.
It's like a different language.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to get you on the same bus initially. And if you get that right, you're starting to become amongst what the best do versus what the average don't do.
Yeah. So just in listening to you share that, I resonate right off the bat where I'm a visual. In fact, I'll take what someone's saying and immediately picture it in my mind. So I'm a very visual person, and that's how I think, that's how I relate. Now my wife, although she's not, in the professional space, she's in the personal space, she is more of a feeler. And there's a gap there. I mean, that's been a lot of our work in our marriage over the years. But how does someone who's visual like me mind the gap when you're walking into a room, you're paying attention, and you realize there's someone who might be more of a vocal,
right,
or they're more of a feeler,
right?
How do you actually mind that gap and do the work to learn how to come over to that side? Because it's not easy to do. Yeah.
It's not. This is part of the craft. So good question. As a financial wholesaler, you got to be a chameleon in the sense you've got to really learn how to work all 3. So if you understand your person's a visual, then you got to get on the visual page, which means you've practiced to become visual, even though you may be vocal. as a financial wholesaler. But if you're a financial wholesaler who's visual in the sense, you have to learn how to come over to the vocal side, put your materials away and really eloquently describe what you have in place so they can listen to what you're talking about. So again, it goes back to practicing the skill set of our craft and understanding those three and being a chameleon to adjust.
Yeah, and paying attention to those cues, right? That's what we're saying. The cues, they're going to lead you into how they communicate, and then you can adjust rather than forcing your style for them to adopt.
In fact, today, when someone's listening to this obviously filming and recording today, which is wonderful, start today and just listen to how people talk. Listen for the key words, whether they're visual, vocal, or they're kinesthetic, about feeling. We call it feeling. Start the training now. In fact, when your next business meeting, listen to what people say and how they present themselves. You'll start training yourself right away in how they present themselves, and therefore you'll find those visual, vocal, and also feeling cues very much in front of you, and that you can act upon right away.
Yeah, and what you're getting at is learning styles. And it's a comprehension in learning styles is an important thing to understand, because we all get to our conclusions differently.
Don't we?
That's great. It's so easy for us to think everyone gets there the way we get there. So if you can't see it, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I see it so clearly. But like, again, talking with my wife as an example, but we have people in our professional world who are this way. If they're feelers, it doesn't make sense sometimes why they understand a thing to be a thing other than they felt their way intuitively through it, and it just makes sense. So we have to truly learn to appreciate this is how people learn. And if the ideas that we teach and guide them toward a solution, we have to come over to their side where they actually begin to hear it, and understanding the types is a start to that.
And as you mentioned, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But it's not easy being the best. You have to really work at what you're doing. That's why we call this underneath, when you listen to an advisor, number one gem, adjust is a must.
Yeah.
So you need to adjust to them, but you need to practice it too, to have the skill set to adjust eloquently so they don't notice it and it doesn't become awkward for you.
Yeah, exactly. So move us on to the next gem.
The next gem is we call listen or learn. Is understand who you're chatting with, who you're making a presentation with. This is more formidable with one-on-one presentations with advisors, not a team, but an advisor one-on-one. Understand where they are in terms of their capability of doing business. If they're a tier one advisor or private wealth advisor, which are the highest two categories, then they don't want to be told what to do. They want to be listened to because they've already done it all. They're proud of what they've done. They want to be listened to. It's more important to be interested in them versus you be interesting to them.
Right.
So make sure that when you're talking to tier one and private wealth type advisors, you're listening to them and have questions to ask them so you can get them talking.
That's really good.
And once you do that, you'll gain their trust faster. Now, tier maybe 2 to 4 advisors, and just average speaking, they want to learn what other people are doing. Because they want to they want to elevate their business. So they're not so much in the fact that they're talking about themselves. They want to listen to ideas, what others are bringing to the table and their colleagues to elevate their business practices. So be aware of the fact that advisors, generally speaking, or at the higher level, or clients, they want to be listened to. So ask them questions, okay, to gain their trust. And the ones who are a little bit lower tiers, okay, who are building their business or building their net worth, they want to be told what else is going on out there so you're more activated, that you're telling stories to them, sharing ideas, successful ideas and so forth that other people are doing. So again, listen or learn. It's not a gray line, but you can understand it once you start talking to advisors at those levels, and you'll differentiate real quickly in how you chat with them.
Well, you don't necessarily have to chat with them, which is a dynamic way to do it, but don't most wholesalers have insights already in who's doing production based on market metrics?
Yeah.
When they go into an office, they already know if they're a top tier producer. So the default would be, I kind of know going in where they're at, what their status is. I'm already going in with the disposition to either listen, or I'm coming in to actually know that they're going to want to learn.
Teach them.
Them.
Yeah. So that's the key. Coming into the table of opportunity with that mindset of I'm ready to listen or I'm ready to teach them. That's key. And so again, there's a lot here, because you're really kind of moving your mental part saying, I got to listen really well and be aware of who they are. Once you talk to them the way they are versus the way you want them to be, all of a sudden it becomes really interesting to work with them because you're gaining their trust that much faster.
Yeah. Well, this leads us right to the next gem, and I think they're really connected.
Very much so. So again, the first gem is to make sure that you're listening, you're working with advisors. Number 2 is making sure that you understand they're listening or they want to be learning about things. And number 3 is making sure that you have a set of open-ended questions to spark a conversation. So what you want to do is open-ended questions are a way for the recipient to give you a lot of information. So in our business world, in our financial securities world, financial advisors, they all like talking about themselves.
Right.
So having a good set of open-ended questions after your small talk to engage into a potential capital market solution, have open-ended questions such as, Mitch, I'm not sure, but can you share with me what you and your team are most excited about in capital markets the next 3 to 6 months? And just let them speak. Tell me more about that. Why do you say that? That's interesting if you had an experience in that in the past. Or on the other side is, can you share with me what's most concerning to you and or your team in capital markets the next 3 to 6 months? What asset class? Again, do the same kind of thing. But those are magical open-ended questions that garners their trust because they're talking. Versus you coming in with a one-pager and giving them all the information and having a data dump. Have an open-ended question for them, or 2 or 3, to gain their trust. Because when people talk about themselves and talk about what they're doing, they're trusting that you're listening, which is very important to start a very productive conversation. Open-ended questions after small talk are the start of the gems.
Yeah, and it takes building trust to begin to guide, right? And give insight. I want to slow this down for a minute and talk a little bit more about this because I see these two really linked, the listen and learn and then the open-ended questions. So I was just at a conference recently where a popular author named Tim Elmore, who's written some best-selling books, and he's just released a new book called A New Kind of Diversity. And it was an interesting conference. We got 3 hours of his time where he was giving us this data that he's writing from. And he's speaking to this idea that at any given time, so if we take our current time frame, there are 5 generations that are alive in the moment. 5 generations. So there's the civic generation who grew up in the Depression. That's the generation that's still alive, the oldest. Then there's the boomers. Then there's the Xers, which I'm in the X generation. Then there's millennials or Y generation. And now we have Gen Z who are coming onto the scene. But it was fascinating for him to say this. He said that for the first time, millennials will dominate the workforce, which means there'll be more millennials than Xers and boomers. And that being said, it means they're beginning to become our managers and become our CEOs and become those leading and shaping. It is the millennial generation. And then, of course, Gen Z coming up underneath it.
Sure.
He identified this. He said that more today than ever, Generation Y, millennials, and Gen Z are needing trust. They need to establish trust before you can guide them. More than ever. I think this is a human condition in general, but more than ever. And so he uses this acrostic, a leg. He says a leg, like if you want a leg to stand on in trying to build trust with the millennials and Gen Z, he says it's this. The first one is this. A is for ask questions. 2 is listen, just listen. E is show empathy in what you're receiving them. Connect with them. Oh man, I didn't understand. Tell me more. And then finally, if you do those 3, you earn the right to guide. And I think it overlays right into what you're talking about. Listen and learn.
Very accurate.
And then you ask open-ended question. And what you do is you build trust to begin to offer advice, because now they want to know what you know rather than you just coming in with 2 guns ready and they didn't even ask you what.
Right.
They didn't ask you for it.
No, in fact, the first 3 gems have nothing to do with a product sale.
Exactly.
You're talking with an advisor, with your skill set, understanding where you are, listen or learn type of decision mentality, and have open-ended questions.
Yeah.
The rest comes
Yeah.
after that.
And you're paying attention to it. You know, I think the average person thinks, oh, I got a product. I'm here to tell you all about
Yeah.
how great it is.
Yeah.
It really does change the atmosphere in the room when someone comes in who you know is wanting to sell you something, or
Sure.
partner who begins asking questions and listening. It does change. It opens you up in a way to want to partner with them.
Can you imagine? I mean, this is what goes on every day. Okay, for decades, financial advisors, when they make an appointment with a wholesaler, know they're going to be trying to be sold something.
Right.
So if you change the dynamic and elevate yourself initially, talking with, listen or learn, open-end questions, you already starting to set yourself apart.
Yeah.
It's so important to set yourself apart, to have a platform to offer what you're best at.
Yeah. All right. Well, move us along to number 4.
Let's talking about a platform to really about what you're best at in terms of what you offer, not only your own value proposition, but your unforgettable storyboard about your product. So you ask these open-ended questions, you come to a conclusion, both of you, that you're looking for a specific asset class that you by chance can help them with at your firm. You have now the responsibility of sharing an unforgettable storyboard about that product or asset class that you have to offer. This is not a data dump. It's just 5 basic bullet points. Number 1, you already asked your open-ended question that led to this discovery of what they're looking for or what they're not looking for. And you so happen to have a chance to fulfill that void of replacement. So number 1, you asked the open-ended questions. It got you to an answer about what they're looking for. Number 2 is provide a concept word about that. So if they're saying, I'm looking for small cap value at the moment as an asset class. That's interesting because conceptually you're really trying to harbor the opportunities with small companies that are very price opportunistic. Is that right? Price opportunistic? Yeah, that's the concept. So that's the concept word you want to stick with them. Then what you do is you go to the 3rd point about your unforgettable storyboard. You say, in this asset class, these are the 3 pearls of the asset class historically that everybody knows about. Number 1, number 2, number 3. You know those pearls of every asset class. Thus, the homework that you have to do as a professional franchise owner of your wholesaling territory is know the pearls of each asset class that everybody knows and talks about. So again, number 1, you open-ended questions that got you to the asset class. Number 2 is the concept word that describes the asset class. Number 3 is you share with them as an agreement that these are the pearls of that asset class. Number 4 about the unforgettable storyboard is this is how we differentiate and elevate those pearls in our management of that asset class. So you have 2 or 3 ways you differentiate and elevate those pearls, okay, of that asset class. That's number 4. And then number 5 is how does that sound to you so far? Now, someone will say that's not realistic. But you know what? In the dialogue, those 5 points will guide you into a smooth presentation versus saying, here's my Morningstar report. Let's go every one of these about Sharpe ratio and all these other different statistics. It may not have anything to do with how you're setting yourselves up as an unforgettable storyboard. Because guess what?
Totally.
The advisor or team needs to repeat that basically to their clients.
Yeah.
About basically the concept, the pearls, and how you make it better, and they should own it too.
Yeah.
So those 5 elements.
And you're talking about in that is the work of becoming an expert in your product or product lines to be able to tell that story.
Sure.
So the story already exists, essentially. It's just doing the work to go mine that story and then rehearse it and become a master storyteller of that, right? Because if you know the products and exactly what you said, if you know those pieces like a master storyteller, then you're confident to listen and you can weave that story into the conversation where you don't have to try to control and force them into your 1-page story. You know have a lot of ways this can go because you're dynamically building the story with them because you've got this you can grab onto, you can add this piece into it, and all of a sudden by the end of it, it's their story rather than your story. And that's what we're trying to do.
It's so important to be aware of. For example, when I was talking to a set of clients about 3 weeks ago, and I asked them about this asset class product that they have at their firm. And it's a phenomenal asset class that is not domestic, but it's international. And I asked them, what are the 3 elements of the asset class that everybody knows about that asset class? And they could not answer that. And I said, therein lies an opportunity for you to, what we call, educate people, even though you think that they may know. And then when you educate them, you obligate them. So if you're an advisor and I share with you and you like that asset class, but I bring those 3 asset class pearls to the table of everybody knows about these 3 pearls and what the asset class does, you may say, I never thought about that that way. I just educated you to obligate you to have another meeting 3 months down the road. You feel good about our relationship. So when you have an unforgettable storyboard, you're educating to obligate.
That's right.
It's powerful, but you have to do the work behind the scenes when no one's looking to get to that level. Because wholesalers today, and back then, we have 20 to 5 different types of products you can offer. Well, basically, it's 3 to 5 that are driving the revenue in the book. So get to know those and have unforgettable storyboards sequence for every one of those. Yeah. And it becomes so much more cherishable by the end user when you're talking and having a discussion with those financial advisors and their teams.
Yeah, and everyone loves a story. So I love that word because it moves it from facts presentation to let's build a story. And you're right, if the advisor doesn't have a story yet in that product line, you get to, by owning the story really well, you get to help them author a story that actually connects to your product. I mean, now they're telling people about your story rather than another company's story.
Educate to obligate.
Exactly. That's really good. All right, so move on to number 5.
This 5th gem is often overlooked, and it's all about having attributes of urgency to the sale. So make sure that you understand why the time is now and that you talk about why now with your advisor when you make that presentation. So you have an unforgettable storyboard, and the last question you asked that person was, how does this sound for you right now relative to what we just talked about? And they say, yeah, it sounds pretty interesting. Now it's important to have attributes of urgency to share with them as why not now? So every one of these products that you have an opportunity to sell out there to advisors should have attributes of urgency. Why now? If there's no why now, forget about it.
Yeah.
It's not why later, it's why now. So why now could be to get positioned for the next reoccurring market cycle, to get positioned for what's occurring in global capital markets that we all know it's happening, to get positioned about how this asset class acts in a downward trend in a certain cycle that we see coming our way, or to get positioned for decreased interest rates. Again, have an urgency as to why now. And therefore, you're starting to get that unforgettable storyboard, have an attribute of urgency. It becomes really clear on why you're talking with them and adding value to them, and that's key.
Yeah. And then the final one?
Have open-ended questions to close. So for example, Mitch, you and I talked about this asset class. You allowed me to share some thoughts with you. How does this sound to you relative to you taking a position in the next month or 2? How does this sound?
Yeah.
When you come, or another one would be, when you come across an attractive idea that I think we both agree upon, how do you start integrating that into your book?
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, your top clients, do you think this fits well with them, and how do you think you would position their portfolio? So again, those are open-ended type of closing questions, and you're tying it into to what you've just told them about unforgettable storyboard, attributes of urgency, and you're asking some questions, open-ended questions. And we have on the follow-up page that people look at in terms of our conversation today, they'll see a list of open-ended closing questions like that.
No, that's really good. There's a part of that too where I think you're earning the trust, so to open them up, essentially, so that you can then close them. Right. So we're trying to open them so that we can close them. And hopefully by them opening up, they actually link and attach to the thing that we're trying to partner with them. They see it, they understand the story, and then they want it. I love too, at the end, it's like you're not just asking about the urgency of now, but you're asking how about now. You're really trying to feel to go, okay, what is the time frame they're thinking, rather than just leaving the room. Are they seeing this in the next 3 months? Are they seeing it in the next 6? Is it the next year? And then you can wrestle with them to go, okay, what does it look like to get that tighter?
Absolutely.
By asking good questions there.
Yeah, and these open-ended closed questions are just key to be memorable, because you're not saying, that's great, I'll follow up with you in 2 weeks. No, it's asking them open-ended questions about how do you start initiating a position like this that we both agreed upon is pretty good for you right now in terms of timing, of attributes of urgency and so forth. Those are very high-level questions, okay, that you can ask them that separates you from everyone else. And so get to know those kind of questions on the close end. on the open end of starting a conversation after small talk. Those are craft skill sets, along with the other gems that we mentioned too in the 6. And I'll just summarize real quickly.
Yeah.
Number 1, talk with an advisor. Number 2, listen or learn. Number 3 is make sure that you have open-ended questions to start the conversation that gets you in the flow. Number 4, have an unforgettable storyboard. Number 5, have a sense of attributes of sense of urgency, and then have closing statements with open-ended questions. Closing opportunities with open-ended questions.
Well, thanks for summarizing that. Super helpful.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Clearly, what you're setting up here is the best wholesalers master these gems. They master this work, right? They're doing it really well. And so we get a clear sense today of what you talked about. But what does an average meeting look like, maybe where they're not using the gems? Like, what are they doing to fall short of what you just presented us today? Maybe there's a wholesaler listening going, oh, okay, this is something I can identify to elevate my game, and they don't see that connection there.
Well, I think the main one, or the main 2 that the average do not employ,
yes,
is talking with an advisor, understanding if they're visual, vocal, or kinesthetic. Okay, that's very important to get on track with them, especially at a high level. And then number 2 is have an unforgettable storyboard, and that takes a lot of work. Because unforgettable doesn't mean a data dump. It means 4 or 5 bullet points that they can walk away with and repeat the advisor to their clients.
Yeah.
So those 2 are the really top ones they fall short of. And then the average representative out there, okay, in wholesaling world, is not skilled at open-ended questions. It's all about, is this work for you now?
Right.
Is this asset class you're looking for? Are these the attributes you want to employ in your asset class? Yes or no? They're more of yes or no questions, closed-ended questions. Open-ended questions really garner trust.
Yeah.
So again, garner trust is where those exercises of getting trust on the plate that is very eloquently informative with your conversation with customers and clients is missing in the average side. The best really incorporate these and elevate themselves along the way, thus be memorable.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I think we have a lot that we can pull from. And to be honest, if you're sitting there going, hey, the storyboard piece is something I might need a little bit of help with, encourage you to reach out to Darren.
Oh, thank you.
Get him to help you. This could be a project that you work on together.
Thanks for saying that. And for you putting this together for financial wholesalers to get exposed to these types of gems is just so appreciative for not only me, but I'm sure they look at it and say, God, I wish I'd have known that earlier. Or now I can obviously put it in my own craft and start exercising. That makes them the best they can be in their business.
Yeah. The Financial Wholesaler podcast is sponsored by Executive Scheduling Associates. If you're looking for appointment setting services, visit our website at esasolutions.com.